Good evening, members of the committee, applicants, agents, staff, and members of the public. I now call the Committee of Adjustment meeting for July 18th, 2024 to order. As this meeting is also being held virtually, I will remind you that the meeting is being recorded and streamed live via the County of Brant YouTube account. Any Committee of Adjustment members joining online should use their camera. We do not have that issue tonight. Applicants, agents, owners, and delegations may also participate virtually. Please ensure that your screen displays your name correctly, your camera is off, and your microphone is on mute until you are called upon to speak. Any public delegations will have 10 minutes to speak to the current application. Any members of the public attending in person must complete the sign-in sheet at the back of the room in order to receive notifications. If you speak on any item, please come to the podium and speak into the microphone and understand that your name will appear in the meeting minutes. If you wish to receive a copy of the committee's decision, please contact the County of Brant Planning Department. This meeting is held in accordance with the provision of the Planning Act, which requires notice of public information meeting and a public notice sign to be posted. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss minor variance and consent applications and provide those in attendance the opportunity to provide feedback. A copy of the meeting agenda with all related materials is available on the County of Brant website. Once the presentations, public hearing, and question period are complete for each item, if the committee deems it appropriate, they will make a decision which is final following the 20-day appeal period. The order of delegation are as follows: planning staff report and recommendation, applicant agent presentation, questions and discussion, public comments, further questions of clarification, and the decision. I'll now take attendance. Please indicate by stating present if you are in attendance. Mary Jane Brown, present. Harry Emmett.
Present.
Bob Hamilton.
Present.
Jane Penag is not attending tonight. Rebecca Smith.
Present.
Steve Schmidt. Steve is not attending tonight. And John Vamus.
Present.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 2, approval of the agenda. Do any members have items to be added to the agenda? There are none. May I request a mover and a seconder? Member Emmett? Seconder on this one? Member Vamus? Can I please have your motion?
Moved by myself and seconded by Member Vamus that the agenda for the County of Brant Committee of Adjustment meeting of July 18, 2024 be approved.
Thank you. Members, please indicate if you are in favor of the motion, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Vamus?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
And Brown, yes. We will now move to item 3 on our agenda. Oh, the motion has carried. The agenda has been approved for the meeting tonight. Item 3, are there any members who would like to declare a conflict of interest for any of the items on the agenda this evening? It appears there are none, so we will then move to item 4 on the agenda. Adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting, June 20th, 2024. Do committee members have any errors or omissions to note? And it appears there are none, so do we have a mover and a seconder for the minutes from June? Member Hamilton, is there a seconder? Member Smith, can I please have your motion?
Moved by myself and seconded by Member Smith that the minutes from the Brant County Committee of Adjustment meeting for June 20th, 2024 be approved.
Thank you for the motion. Members, please indicate if you are in favor of this motion, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
and Brown, yes. The motion to adopt the minutes from June 20th, 2024 has carried. They are now in record. We will now start on the applications. I will introduce the item 5.1 application for A924HH and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, committee, staff, and members of the public. My name is Diana Morris, Senior Planner with the county, and I'm pleased to be before you this evening to discuss the proposed minor variance application for lands located at 29 Broadview Drive. I've read the staff report written by Haley Halima and am in agreement with the staff recommendation. The subject lands are located south of Broadview Drive to the east of Michelle Drive. The lands have an approximate frontage of 42.24 meters, a depth of 86.64 meters, and a total area of 0.26 hectares, and currently contains an existing single detached dwelling and detached shed. The subject lands are serviced by private infrastructure, and surrounding area consists of single detached dwellings and agricultural land uses to the immediate east. The subject lands are designated urban residential in the County of Brant official plan and zoned SR suburban residential. The existing and proposed uses are permitted within this designation and zone. The applicant is proposing to construct an 167.23 square meter accessory structure for personal storage and are seeking a relief from Section 4, Table 4.4.1. The following variances have been applied for. To permit a reduced rear yard and interior side yard setback of 1.2 meters, whereas 1.5 meters is required. To permit an increased maximum height of 5.4 meters, whereas 5 meters is required. And to permit an increase in the maximum lot coverage of 178.38 square meters, whereas 140 square meters is required. Notice of the application was circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, and no public comments or concerns were received. As a result of the minor variance review, staff are of the opinion that the request maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and will not negatively impact adjacent land uses. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of minor variance application A9-24-HH. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Diana, for the presentation. Does the committee have any questions for staff on this application? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, we're talking about minor variance here, but we have 4 variances. Just looking for clarification how that might be minor.
Through the chair, each variance applied for, although there was 4 variances, we reviewed each on the technicality and whether it's minor. Each individual setback or a request was minor. So in regards to the side yard setbacks of 1.2 meters, that was requested due to the location of an existing septic tank that is in front of the proposed structure. The increase in lot coverage, there is an existing dwelling and shed on the property, and just the location of where they're proposing the accessory structure, it does not impact any adjacent land uses. There's no structures or dwellings directly adjacent to the structure, and directly to the east there is agricultural uses. So it will not impact any adjacent land uses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the committee members to staff? Member Emma?
Through the chair to the staff, is there room at the end of the building to put 2
Through the chair, there is, from where it's currently showed, there is a 3-meter setback from the property boundary to the septic bed. Okay, so sorry to follow up through the chair. The plan that was submitted, it does show as a proposed garage and maybe the potential for molecular access. At this point in time, the owner does just want to use it for personal storage. So if in the future they do wish to use it as a garage for vehicles, they will need to prove that they can have access to the back.
Any further questions from committee? Member Bamus?
Yes, through the chair to the staff, you mentioned about the current land use, and there's no adjacent structures right now, but in 10, 20 years there probably will be. So, yeah, there's nothing beside it now, but there probably will be in the future. So then what happens then? Or which that's why we should think about the future too, not just because there's nothing there now, I think.
Yeah, through the chair. The 1.2 meter setback, staff is of the opinion that it won't affect any future type land uses that would exist maybe, or sorry, that would be proposed in the future. We believe that the accessory structure, location, and the area is, especially for the lot size of what it is, it's supportable. Yep, and sorry if I could follow up with that. Through the chair, so the minimum side yard setback is 1.5 as of right, 1.5 meters. So the applicant is just requesting a 0.3 meter reduction, and I'm of the opinion that that is minor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Just as a follow-up to Member Emmett's question, because I didn't quite hear it. Did you say it was 0.3 meters from the septic or 3 meters from the septic?
Sorry, 3 meters.
3 meters.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And if there's no other questions for staff, I'll ask, is the applicant or their agent present? Present. Do you have anything you wish to add to the staff's report? Could you give your name and come forward in case the committee has any questions for you?
Michael DeLay.
Thank you. Do committee members have any questions to the applicant? Member Hamilton? Oh, Member Smith, go ahead.
We'll probably ask the same thing. So through the chair to the applicant, I know it's only a foot for a variance, but is there a reason why you didn't just push it the foot from the side property line? Like, can you maybe explain the rationale for the building being located in that corner rather than the other corner?
Basically, it obstructs our view. We have a view of the park in the back. We like to keep it left justified from our property the way the house is situated. And in that corner, just to maximize the usability of our yard, it makes sense to put it in that back corner. And we want to tuck it in as close as we can reasonably do so.
Can I?
Member Hamilton?
You go first.
Through the chair to the applicant. Looking at the site there, I see you have a number of mature trees. If you look on, I think it's photograph 3 of the thing going along, I guess, the east side of the. Are those trees on the property line, or were they within the boundary of your lot?
They're within the boundary of our lot.
By how far?
Tough to say. I would probably say 3 or 4 feet.
Okay, and if we give you a 3.9, 3 foot 9 inch from the lot line, does that mean that all those trees have to come down?
Yes, very likely.
Okay, thank you for that. And the two big ones, the cedar and the maple at the back as well. So all those trees will be cleaned out of there potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
But
And then we plan to plant some trees once we're finished at the end. We'd probably do another line of trees in there following the construction.
okay. A follow-up question to staff through the chair. It appears that the forestry person had no comments. And therefore, if these trees are coming down, shouldn't she have identified that and put something forward?
Sorry, through the chair, despite if there's any impact on trees, the County of Brant does not have an individual or private tree bylaw. So we wouldn't be in the position to require compensation or replacement for those trees.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'm confused because several times when we've did a consent application or other things, we've had to put in a tree inventory and 2-to-1 replacement for any trees that are taken down. So I know the applicant says he's going to plant some. It's just a matter, it's generally stated in the application. Or is a minor variance completely different?
I can take this one. Dan Mizniak, Acting Director of Development Planning. Yes, you would be confused based on our approach in previous applications when it comes to trees. And as that was introduced a few months ago, we have allowed that process to play out, and it's been determined that that it is quite onerous, especially when we do not have an individual tree bylaw. It's very hard to govern individual trees when the county does not have a bylaw in order to do so. I think the intent behind what we were trying to do was very smart for all the right reasons, but unfortunately we just don't have a mechanism or a process in place to allow for that to be monitored after this process. So it's something that we continue to work on. Whether or not the county implements an individual tree bylaw really depends on availability of staff, additional staff to be able to monitor that. So at this time, there's no condition added related to trees, and we would be in a position to assess a minor variance differently than, say, a consent application where the impact on the property is significantly greater.
Okay, thank you. I just was taking 20-foot trees and knocking them down at any time with a minor variance versus consent application. To me, I can't see the difference. But I understand that being short-staffed, the county, therefore you're shortcutting looking after some of these things.
Are there any further questions on this application for staff? Member Vamus?
Through the chair to the applicant, so my understanding is the existing shed is going to stay then?
That's correct.
And then did you give any consideration of just making this two feet shorter? Then you'd be away from the property line?
Any consideration to making
it a little bit smaller, then you wouldn't have to even be here.
I'd like to avoid that if possible. I'd like to just maximize the space because our existing structure is maximized with recreational storage. It's basically a recreational storage unit. So I'd like to avoid that if possible. That's why we're requesting what we are for the building.
You're not maximizing the space, you're exceeding the space allowance. It's not maximizing, you're going even further. That's fascinating.
I understand that. We're doing that to maximize the building structure, maximize the space that we can, if we can get that ability, or if we have the ability to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Member Smith, you had a question? No? Member Hamilton?
Through the staff to the applicant, you said it was for storage of vehicles and things like that. What type of vehicles are going to be going in an 1,800 square foot shed?
Personal vehicles,
Such as?
a couple sports cars, a couple ATVs, some recreational vehicles that I have that I can't store them currently in the existing yard shed that I have. So I'd like to have some storage on my property, and that's what this building would be used for. A couple vehicles and recreational storage, seasonal storage, patio table, that kind of thing, right?
All right, and to follow that up, there was the engineering put forward a question that I didn't see answered or put into this. How are you going to get these vehicles back into your shed?
I drive them back. We may extend the driveway at some point in time.
Which side of the house?
It would be on the east side of the house.
That circular driveway you would
Correct.
come around, but the other side is you're fairly close there. You might be able to squeeze in an 8-foot driveway or laneway back in there, but it's going to be tight with those trees unless you take all those trees out.
Right, exactly, right. So we have no immediate plans to do that at this time. However, we may in the future, and we may extend the driveway back there, yes.
It's just a matter if you've already got your vehicles and you build the building, you still got to get the vehicle back there.
Right, and we could still, without the trees there, we could still drive along the edge of at the edge of our property line to get the vehicles to the back. We just haven't decided or figured out how we would like to do the driveway or any of that nature. We're focusing on the building first.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Oh, Member Emmett, sorry.
Well, I'll go back to the question that I give staff. If you're putting vehicles into that building, the diagram that was circulated shows the tile bed for the septic tank right up tight to the building. So are you going to move the septic or the tile bed?
Possibly. That tile bed is not to scale. That tile bed was proposed off a proposed drawing. It's not exact. We've yet to cross that bridge. We haven't figured that out exactly. So we are prepared, and we will move that if we need to. But that is not to scale and on that drawing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question, following up how close the proposed building is to the septic tank. Did you consider moving the building so that it's basically right at the corner of the house rather than at the back of the lot? Because to me, it looks like, and again, it's not to scale, is there enough room between the corner of the house and the start of the septic bay?
There's not enough room. No, we did look at that. We did consider that. And based on what we know and we think, and we know where the septic tank is, we're just not 100% sure on the tile bed, that it's not an ideal location. Okay. So that's why we preferred to put it in that back corner.
Okay, thank you. Member Smith?
Through the chair, this may be through to staff. I remember at one time there was a setback requirement for a septic bed in the zoning bylaw. Just confirming that's not in the bylaw any longer.
Sorry, through the chair, I'm just gonna double check. I don't believe there is. I did not see any reference to that upon our review.
Thank you.
And any final questions or comments? I believe there are none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I'll ask the committee, and there were no public delegations. Is the committee prepared to give a motion on this application? Member Hamilton? Could we have your motion, and then I'll see if we get a second.
Okay. I move to accept that, the minor variance application A9-22-HH with there's no conditions, but because it meets the official plan of the County of Brant and the zoning bylaws that have been put forward.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion on the floor? Member Smith? I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett,
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
No.
and Brown, yes. The motion to approve application A924HH has carried, not unanimously. The application has been approved. Thank you. I will now introduce item 5.2 for application B524DN and turn it to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a consent application for a property located at 1318 Colburn Street West. This property in particular has frontage along Bishopsgate Road, and the applicant and agent are with us this evening. And I am recommending approval of the application with the conditions attached. So the property will look familiar to the committee, as we've dealt with a number of applications over the last few months or year or two for consent along this particular property. The subject lands as they are today appear in the outlined in blue. The total area of the property is 41 hectares, and the property contains existing dwelling and agricultural structures. As I mentioned, previous applications for severance and zoning bylaw amendment applications kind of generally shown where the red dots are, so the committee has dealt with this property in the past. Similar to the previous applications, the designation is within the blue area is employment lands or industrial, and then the off-white color there is agricultural. In terms of this particular application, we just received provisional approval from council or the Planning Advisory Committee to rezone the subject lands with a site-specific zoning on the agricultural designated portion, and that's to recognize the undersized area that's left over after severance. And the portions within the blue areas, the employment lands designations, those were zoned to M2 or light industrial to allow this application to move forward. So this application is proposing to create one new industrial lot as shown in red, that one hectare parcel, and the retained lands would maintain 37.6 hectares. So the lot creation is required to facilitate the creation of the lot and also to facilitate a site plan control application in the future, which would look at all the detailed design, access, landscaping, parking areas. So in terms of process, the application was circulated. No public comments were received as part of the circulation of this application. Following a decision from the committee, there will be a 20-day appeal period where we will work with the applicant to clear conditions of approval if they're successful. So for the reasons outlined in the report, I'm recommending approval of this consent application. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. Do committee members have any questions on this application? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, just a couple points for clarification that may come up later. The engineering department, we're looking for a 0.3 meter reserve along the front of it, except for where the driveway is going to be, I'm assuming. And I didn't see that in the conditions. And secondly, there was the Bishopsgate Municipal Drain. Looks like there's work going on that. Should not this piece be identified as being part or having to pay part of that in the future?
Madam Chair, to Mr. Hamilton, two great questions. First, on the reserve, so the limits of the reserve where the access won't be, we don't know exactly where that entrance will be, so we'll be able to take that reserve and any additional road widening that may be required as part of the site plan control application. So once the applicants come forward with their detailed design, we'll review it and then accept an entrance in that location. The question about the municipal drain, so that process is still ongoing as we speak, so we don't know what that allocation of financial contribution would be at this time, but certainly the municipal drain design includes all of these lands, so any future severances and future landowners will be part of that process.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? I can't recall in reading through other applications in that when parcel of land is considered for employment use, there's no restriction or definition, is there, that there has to be a certain number of employees to meet employment use?
Through Madam Chair, no, not necessarily. We don't have, I guess the lands are currently designated and now they're currently zoned to permit light industrial uses. That M2 zone lists a large number of a variety of light industrial related uses. So basically anything that's there is proposed. I think if we were looking at official plan designation changes or land use changes at a much higher scale, we may be looking at making sure that we're meeting some targets for density of employments. But in this case, these lands have been designated for a long time.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Is the applicant or their agent present? Thank you. Hi there. Can you provide your name for the record? And
Sorry, it's Bob Phillips from Cahoon Engineering, representing Mr. John Verhey and his company who are interested in purchasing this property along Bishopsgate Road. He currently operates out of the Hamilton area and he wants to relocate his business to this location. We thank Dan for both the report tonight and the previous reports through the rezoning process. The parcel of land is actually 6 acres, 2.65 hectares. So it's a little bit bigger than what Dan had mentioned, but it's one of the teeth that was left over for the main farm that extended to Bishopsgate, and we're just looking to sever that off. We've read the planning staff report, very supportive of it and the conditions that are outlined in it. We are continuing to work with the county on the drain aspect of it because that was a serious impediment about getting to this committee. Other than that, I'm just here to answer any questions you might have.
do committee members have any questions for the agent? I believe there are none.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is the committee prepared to make a motion? Member Emmett? Thank you. Is there a second for this motion? Member Smith, I'll now call the vote. Yes? Yes?
It's the staff or Dan over there, on page 45, we aren't approving the zoning bylaw, doing a line variance, correct?
Through Madam Chair, no, incorrect. We're not approving the minor variance. We're approving the consent.
So it should be ZB May 8-24DN.
No, it should be, sorry, it should be B524DN.
Okay.
Yep.
But even in the report that we're accepting, it's stating that, that's all that it's clear and whatever.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, conditions refer to B524. Okay. So I will now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett,
Yes?
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
and Brown, yes. The motion to approve application B524DN has carried, so application has been approved. Thank you. I will now introduce item 5.3 on the agenda for application B2623 SL and A1124KD, and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a consent application for a property located at 369 Scenic Drive. This is a consent and minor variance application for that property. The agents are with us this evening, and staff recommendation, as outlined in the staff report, recommends approval of the applications with the conditions attached. So the subject lands are located outlined in blue up on the screen. Total area 4.1 hectares. Frontage of 150 meters along Scenic Drive, and there exists on the property a single detached dwelling and some environmental features which we can touch on as part of the application. So the official plan currently designates the subject lands as rural residential within that brown area and natural heritage area within the green blob. The natural heritage system specifically highlights existing slope erosion, slope valley, and significant wetlands. The current zoning on the property, so this application or this property did go through a recent rezoning application to help facilitate this process, where the natural heritage zoning on the property was increased to reflect the findings of an environmental impact study that was completed. So that the green area within the zoning was increased to reflect those findings and permit or further restrict development in certain areas to incorporate buffers, protective buffers. And the rural residential zoning was established in accordance with the official plan designation, but also includes site-specific provisions that highlight the significant environmental considerations on the property. So two parts to this application: the consent application to create the lot and the minor variance application to permit the lot to have a reduced frontage of 35 meters, where the rural residential zone requires a minimum of 40 meters. So a number of studies were completed in support of the application, including the archaeological, the environmental impact study, and a hydrogeological assessment. Some key conditions to highlight: the kind of proof of potable water and quality quantity through the completion of the hydrogeological assessment. This remains a condition of consent, as the committee is familiar with. The land conveyance, or any land conveyance that's required for the purpose of road widening or the establishment of safe sight lines, and a development agreement for the purpose of implementing the findings and the recommendations of the environmental impact study and the environmental implementation plan. So another step that we've taken to identify the significant environmental features that exist. So similar to the previous application, we are presenting the application with a recommendation. No public comments have been received as part of the circulation of the application, and planning staff are recommending approval of the application with attached conditions for the reasons outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. Do any committee members have comments to staff on this application? Member Emmett?
I was just I noticed the north-south boundary on the east side is very irregular in shape. How was that determined?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to clarify, you're referring to the lands to be severed?
Correct.
Right. So I can clarify, and the agents are here as well. I can likely speak to it with some better justification, but essentially it was the findings of that environmental impact study incorporating development restriction setbacks. That's what determined those irregular lot lines. So in this case, and it's outlined in this staff report, where the recommendation really prioritizes the protection and the enhancement of that natural heritage system. So it's not just identifying the feature, it's actually incorporating a protective buffer from that feature to ensure that no development can occur within the area that it shouldn't.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Member Hamilton?
Just wanting to, all the houses supposed to be built at the back, correct? On the page there, showing it should be back half mile from the road.
Through Madam Chair, that's what's shown on the concepts provided with the application.
My question is that laneway that's going back, is it currently hayfield all the way back and not natural area? Or is there some areas on that wall? Well, it's the Arcadius one that I'm looking at the drawing on the second page of the lot. And I just want to know if it's all hay and not impacting the natural area, or the laneway itself when it's created.
Yeah. Through Madam Chair, and again, perhaps the agents can elaborate the zoning or the layout of this proposed lot, including the house at the rear of the property and the driveway that would be required to go there, has been considered as part of the establishment of the zoning, the zone boundaries, and the findings of the environmental impact study. So, and the findings and the recommendations would permit that driveway to go back. Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions to staff? I believe there are none. So I'll ask, is the applicant or their agent present? Could we have your name for the record? And I understand there is a presentation.
Correct. My name is Douglas Stewart. I'm with Arcadis. Also joining me is a member of our staff team. We, as part of the formal submission for the consent application, sent in a pretty extensive response. One, we wanted to explain that on this piece of property, this has been studied in a number of perspectives. And what our intent here to right now is to give you some of those, explaining it a bit. So here's what we believe are key points for consideration. This parcel of land was the subject of a pre-submission consultation where all of the issues were identified and scoped, and as a result of that, a formal submission to amend the zoning was presented and approved by council, and there were no appeals. The second point, this conforms to the approved County of Brant official plan. This type of form of housing, the protection of the natural environment, is what the plan expects. The parcel fabric, I think we should score some points in that the parcel fabric is pretty imaginative. It's certainly going to not be your traditional residential parcel. It is a function of the scoped environmental study, and the application of provincial policies and county policies and Grand River conservation policies that resulted in providing a 30-meter to be naturalized buffer. The important part is the studies identified the feature and then provided for the required setback. The proposed parcel has been subject to pretty detailed evaluation, and it is found that it can be serviced for both septic and private water, and as a result of the proposed conditions, some further detailed work will be required. This parcel meets the area required for the new parcel. Unfortunately, part of the bylaw amendment review process did not identify the issue of minimum frontage, because as a result of more detailed study when the consent was being proposed to address the Ontario Building Code, there's the existing house has a septic system that required a 3-meter setback, which skewed the parcel fabric. So there is a request for a minor variance to address an existing condition. If I can point out on this sketch, this shows what was identified through the scoped environmental study, the feature, and then proposed the 30-meter buffer. Because environmental features don't tend to be straight, we have straightened the boundary so it actually expands the feature to create the straightness as we could. Key points, and it was identified by the county and was certainly expressed by the council when they dealt with the amendment to the zoning bylaw, that the proposed access needed to meet the minimum 120 meters for height distance. As a result of that, 2 parcels are required to be conveyed to the county. The first parcel in red already has. As a result of this consent application, the parcel in blue will be a condition. The point of access, as required through a condition, will need an access permit. Both the county and all of the agencies have looked at this through the pre-submission, through the bylaw amendment, and now the consent, and are in support. There are conditions of approval being recommended. We have reviewed those and find them acceptable. It's a small point, but a key point. This was intended that future housing could be here. This will help contribute to a diversity and one more house. And as a professional planner, I'm of the opinion this consent, which implements the approval of a zoning bylaw by council, is good planning. I would be pleased if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart, for the presentation. I'll ask the committee members, do you have any questions, comments? Member Emmett.
I don't have the application in front of me, so I apologize. So on the sketch that was part of the application, that was what the proposed access was at the time of that. And again, the location has been determined through meeting the 120 meters and would be still subject to, as a condition of the consent, for an access permit. So it's there for information. Although the precise location will be determined through the access permit.
Any other comments? Member Smith?
Through the chair, and this might be a question to staff, but I'll pose it to the applicant first. So there's a comment in here about the Grand River Conservation Authority. They had attached a memo back from 2023, and they indicated that they had no further comments from that. Just wondering, I'm assuming they were involved in the EIS, so I just want confirmation that they had no other issues, I suppose, that wouldn't be otherwise dealt with the conditions in the report.
Correct. And through the chair, they were involved in the amendment to the bylaw, and all the issues there raised were responded to.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I just had a comment. If you look at the sketch that Member Emmett showed you, and I know this has gone through a lot of process already, the driveway comes in, the proposed driveway with a curb, and to me, in that little area where the line goes across, it looks like there's enough room closer to the road in that small area that would put the house in proximity to the existing house. So the reason the house had to go to the back of the property was because of the variance with the shortage of the lot frontage, or what was the reason that the house couldn't fit up closer to the road where the existing, like approximately in line with the existing house?
If I may reply back through the chair, if you look at the existing topography,
Yes, it went up the hill.
it's not appropriate to put the residence in that location. There's just not enough room for both a driveway the house, the septic, and such. When the application was considered through council, council understood that that was the instance and that the proposed house would go at the back. A lot of has been done to provide sufficient information to show that the point of access can meet that. It also reflects the official plan boundary. It also reflects the amendment to the bylaw boundary. So if the residents could have gone at the front, that's where it would have been, but it cannot, and it is not proposed to.
Okay, thank you. And any other comments or questions? No. Okay, thank you for the presentation. Then I will ask the committee, are you prepared to make a motion on this application? Member Hamilton.
I move that we accept application B 26-23-SL. I'm going to do the consent application first, and then I'll do the minor variance second. Because with the list of conditions that have been put forward, because it meets the official plan of Brant County and the zoning bylaws.
Thank you. Is there a second for that motion? Member Vamus. I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion to approve application B2623LG has carried. Application B2623LG has been approved. Could I have the motion for the variance now?
All right. I move that we accept the minor variance A11-24-KD because it's minor in nature and it follows the official plan and the zoning bylaws of the County of Brant.
Thank you. Is there a second for that motion? Member Emmett. I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion to approve application A1124KD has carried, so application A1124KD has been approved. Thank you. You're welcome. I will now introduce item 5.4 for application A1024HH and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a minor variance application for lands located at 164 Highway 53. I have read the staff report written by Haley Halima and am in agreement with the recommendation. The subject lands are located east of Lawrence Road between 6th Concession Road and Highway 53. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 70 meters, excuse me, a depth of 51 meters, and a total area of 0.35 hectares. Lands are currently vacant, but the owners are currently acquiring permits for a single detached dwelling. The subject lands are designated hamlets and villages in the County of Brant official plan and zoned RH residential hamlets and villages. The uses are permitted within the designation and zone. The applicant is seeking relief from Section 4, Table 4.4.1 for an increase in lot coverage for an accessory structure which will be used for personal storage. The applicant has proposed an increased lot coverage of 158 square meters, whereas 140 square meters is permitted for accessory structures. The notice of this application was circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, and no public comments or concerns were received. As a result of the minor variance review, staff are of the opinion that the request maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and will not negatively impact adjacent land uses. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of minor variance application A10-24-HH. Thank you and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation, Diana. I'll ask the committee, are there any comments or questions on this application? None? Then I'll ask, is the applicant or their agent present? Could I have your name online?
Yeah, Matt Goslin.
Thank you. Do you have anything you wish to add to the staff report?
No.
Do committee members have any questions for Mr. Goslin or comments? Member Emmett has one.
Through you to either staff or the applicant. Now, this past week, we've had major rainfall in the area and we've had some flash flooding. Is this lot able to carry the capacity and absorb all the flash flooding without causing damage to something or to the neighbors?
Yeah, we're applying to build a house there. The house isn't actually built yet, but we have a dry well and it's all been engineered and it's under approval from the county currently.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Member Hamilton has one.
Through the chair to the applicant, just wanting to know, do you have a garage on the house that you're building, and therefore this is going to be an additional accessory building for additional storage?
Yep, that's correct.
And what would you be storing in this this new accessory building?
That'll be lawn equipment, kids equipment, kids toys, different quads, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions to the applicant? Then I'll ask the committee, do you have any final comments or questions? And there aren't. Oh, Member Hamilton?
Yeah, this is more just a house cleaning or looking after. On page 284, it should be Highway 53 of Burford Township, not Highway 54. So it's just a typo.
Page 284?
Well, the second page of the application, 84.
Oh, 84.
Flip it over, right at the top there, it says location. It's got,
Yes.
so it's just a,
Highway,
that's all.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. With that, I will ask the committee, are you prepared to make a motion on application A1024HH? Member Smith?
I'll make a motion to approve application A10-24HH as the minor variance meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act.
Thank you. Is there a second for the Member Emmett? I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Vamus?
No.
And Brown, yes. Application A1024HH, the motion to approve it has carried, so that application has been approved. Thank you.24HH. I will now introduce item 5.5 for application A824JA and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Okay, Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a minor variance application for lands located at 14 Cornwall Road. I have read the staff report written by Jessica Abraham and am in agreement with the recommendation. The subject lands are located south of Cornwall Road and north of Colburn Street East. The lands have an approximate frontage of 45.72 meters, a depth of 103.85 meters, and a total area of 0.44 hectares, currently containing an existing dwelling, detached garage, and shed. The subject lands are serviced by private infrastructure. Surrounding area consists of agricultural land uses. The subject lands are designated agriculture in the County of Brandon official plan and zoned agriculture. The applicant is seeking relief from section 4, subsection 4.5B X4 to permit a setback of 51.5 meters, whereas 40 meters is required from the primary dwelling unit to facilitate the construction of a proposed detached additional dwelling unit. The current requirement of 40 meters would place the proposed additional residential unit in a location which consists of the septic bed. This relief is being requested to preserve the necessary space and field around the septic. The notice of this application was circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, and no public comments or concerns were received. As a result of the minor variance review, staff are of the opinion that the request maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and will not negatively impact adjacent land uses. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of minor variance application A8-24-JA. Thanks again for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Diana, for the presentation. Does the committee have any questions to staff on this application? No comments? It appears there are none. Then I will ask, is the applicant or their agent present? Yes? Could you please come up to the podium and give your name?
Michael Abirashid.
Thank you. Do you have anything you wish to add to the staff report?
No, thank you.
No? You're in agreement with all of it? Thank you. Does the committee have any comments? Member Hamilton?
I was just wondering, it didn't state on there the size of the ARU that you're going to be putting there. Just wondering how big it was going to be.
It's gonna be about 21 by 42. That's the only amount that's allowed on the property, taking into consideration, I'm not sure if it was 5% lot coverage that you're allowed, because there's the garage that's gonna be minus than the existing primary residence.
Yes.
So we're only allowed a 21 by 42.
Okay, and a second question to that, are you going to tie the septic system and the current well into that ARU, or are there going to be separate septic and well for that ARU?
The well, we're not sure. We have to still ask if we can tie into the existing one or not, but for the septic, for sure, it's gonna have its own.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments, questions? It appears there are none. Thank you. Then I will ask the committee, are you prepared to make a motion on application A824JA? Member Hamilton, please go ahead.
I move that we accept minor variance application A8-24-JA because it's minor in nature and it fulfills the points of the official plan and the zoning bylaws of the County of Brandon.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for this motion? Member Smith. I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion to approve application A824JA has carried, so application A824JA has been approved. Thank you. I will now move to item 6 on our agenda, pointing out that the next meeting is scheduled to be September 19th, 2024, and again will be a hybrid meeting starting at 6 p.m. as there is no meeting in August. Item 8 is for adjournment. Could I please get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Member Emmett? Is there a seconder? Member Hamilton, please provide your motion.
Moved by myself and seconded by Member Hamilton that the meeting of July 18th, 2024 be adjourned.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your hands. Yes? Thank you. I now declare the meeting for July 18th, 2024 adjourned.